Hello Steve, today is Monday, April the 14th, and today I'm previewing all 8 series of the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. As you might be aware, Sunday was the last game of the season for my team, the Ottawa Senators, and they finished the season strong with a 3-2 win against Pittsburgh. But the real joy in an otherwise dismal season was beating the Toronto Maple Leafs just one day prior, which ensured that Ottawa would finish ahead of Toronto in the standings in the NHL. Although not like it really mattered, neither team made the playoffs. So enough talked about the teams that missed, let's talk about the teams that made it. I'm not sure if you're aware of this yet, Steve, but this year the NHL adopted a new playoff seeding format. There's still the usual 2 conferences, East and West, but in each conference there's only 2 divisions. The top 3 teams from each division earn a playoff spot, and there are 2 wildcard spots in each conference. The second and third place teams in the division play each other in the first round, and the division winner plays a wildcard team. And I really enjoy this playoff seeding format for one reason: it creates a lot of division rivalries in the first round, aka the biggest rivalries in the NHL. So let's get things started off in the Eastern Conference. Your team, the Detroit Red Wings, finishes the 8th seed in the Eastern Conference. And they're the team that nobody wanted to draw, considering the fact that they've been there before and they're full of veterans who know exactly what they're doing. They're not your typical 8th seed. And they had a chance of pulling off a great upset, except for the fact that the team they drew, the Boston Bruins, might be the best team in hockey. The 6 other teams in the Eastern Conference must be really happy that this matchup ended up happening. Heading into the final weeks of the season, I really like Detroit as a first-round upset candidate, but not in this matchup. I have the Bruins winning in 6 games. Another team streaming potential upset is the Columbus Blue Jackets. They played great down the stretch run of the season. They have a goalie, Sergei Bobrovsky, who can really steal the game. That's right, Bobrovsky. But unfortunately for them, they drew the Pittsburgh Penguins, who, even though they coasted into the playoffs, are a pretty good matchup against Columbus. This season, Pittsburgh pretty much creamed Columbus every time they played them. So I like the Pittsburgh Penguins to win this series, and I'll give them 5 games. But even with saying that, look out for Columbus. One of the most intense series of the first round is going to be the New York Rangers against the Philadelphia Flyers. And in my opinion, this series is streaming a 7-gamer. And in a 7-game series, the advantage goes to the home team, but I'm going to go against that. I'm pitching slight upset and saying the Philadelphia Flyers will win this series in 7 games. The final Eastern Conference series is the Montreal Canadiens against the Tampa Bay Lightning. And even though Tampa Bay is the higher seeded team, I let the Montreal Canadiens to win the series in 6 games. Which is a good thing for the country of Canada, as it's the only Canadian team in the playoffs. But a bad thing for me, because I hate the Montreal Canadiens. I just had this feeling to steal a game in Tampa Bay against an inexperienced Lightning team and ride the momentum from their home crowd all the way to victory. So that finishes the Eastern Conference. I've got Boston, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, and Montreal. And if you haven't noticed, I think I've set up a second round of Pittsburgh versus Philadelphia, Boston, Montreal, which are pretty much 2 of the biggest rivalries in the Eastern Conference. So I think my picks are a little bit of wishful thinking. Now that's enough from the East, let's move on to the West. And here's where I'm going to start pulling off some pretty major upsets. So let's begin with the top-seeded team, the Anaheim Ducks. I really don't see them as the number 1 seeded team. I think a lot of the other teams in the West are better. But one team that I don't think is better is the Dallas Stars, and that's who they're playing. So I like Anaheim to take this series in 5 games. Next up, we have the 2nd-ranked team, Colorado, up against the 7th-ranked team, Minnesota. Now, Colorado's been a hot team all season, but overall their numbers sort of indicate they might not be as good as you think. And I see the Minnesota Wild as a team with spoiler written all over it. So my pitch is the Minnesota Wild in 7 games in a shocker. And one of the reasons for that selection is I think the 4 best teams in the Western Conference are all playing each other in the first round. And these 2 series are pretty much going to be amazing. First off, you have the St. Louis Blues against the Chicago Blackhawks. On one hand, you have the defending Stanley Cup champions, and on the other end, you have one of the best defensive teams in hockey. Now, I've really liked the Blues this year, and I really want them to win this series. But the way they ended the season put them in pretty much the worst position they could be in. This is not the matchup they want in the first round. So I'm picking the Chicago Blackhawks to win this series in 6. With saying that, though, I really hope I'm wrong, because I want the St. Louis Blues to move on to the next round. So I'll finish my first round selections with what I think will be the craziest series of the first round. And that would be the San Jose Sharks against the LA Kings. Both teams played each other last year in the playoffs, and the series went 7 unbelievable games. And each game was a 1-goal game. And this year it's a lot the same. There's not much separating these 2 teams. On one hand, you have the Stanley Cup champion from 2 years ago. On the other hand, you have a team that's never really made it there, but this year in the regular season, they seem to crush opponents into the round. And I really like the makeup of this San Jose Sharks team from forward, defense to goal. So my selection is San Jose in 7 games. As you may have been able to tell, that's the jersey I've been wearing for this entire video. And although I'm a big fan of the Ottawa Senators, in the Western Conference the Sharks tend to be my team. So I consider them to be my second team, the team I cheer for if and when Ottawa has been eliminated. And also cheer for when Ottawa's around, just not as strong as Ottawa. So here's hoping 2014 is the year of the Shark. The first round of the NHL playoffs is always a very exciting time because there's not much that separates even a 1 seed from an 8 seed. And that's just the nature of hockey, it's just such a tight checking game. So to recap the Western Conference, I like the Anaheim Ducks, the Minnesota Wild, the San Jose Sharks, and the Chicago Blackhawks. Now time for a quick challenge update. I don't really have much to report. I ran 2.5 miles on Saturday and that upped my total to 45. And unfortunately I haven't been able to run since then. And right now has been a very busy time at work for me, so a lot of my other challenges have really stalled. So hopefully once the busyness has passed, I can get a little bit more progress done. Now on to Battleship. Your last shot, congratulations, was a hit. And now my shot is going to be D8. It's now time for me to resume hunting in high probability spots for your next ship. So until the next time, go Sharks go.